I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
We are the Pandemonium.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How was work?
It was work. I painted my nails last night. I was that entertained at work.
I'm glad. I went to bed at 8:15. The neighbors that I'm pretty sure were growing pot moved out. They're gone. Like the house was emptied. But him and I went for our nightly walk like we normally do. We didn't go for one yesterday, but a couple nights ago, she was just screaming and hooting and hollering at him, and the U-Haul was on the grass. So I knew something happened, but
Somebody moved out.
not the next door neighbors. The next door neighbors are unfortunately still there. I like them. They're okay when they're quiet and when they're not playing music until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But I've already told Rachel when she comes for our baby shower. Do we need to do a bump update? I think we might. Hold on. Because right now I'm at 24 and a half weeks.
That bumpy bumping.
This is the biggest size that Walmart has.
Which is such bull poop.
They don't even have a maternity section anymore.
I absolutely hate it. And what little plus size stuff they have isn't very plus size friendly.
So I do have a shirt. I've already talked to him about it, about making a couple of t-shirts and a couple of pairs of pants. And I'm going to...
Forgot to take my meds.
I was muted that whole time. So take your meds. Set up your hydration stations. I am currently cutting out pieces.
We're a little off kilter today.
You know, I think it's because I actually got more than 3 hours of sleep yesterday.
Which I'm so proud that the brisket lets you sleep.
I know. Speaking of, we're having brisket at the baby shower. I felt it was only fitting. You know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And we're announcing what we're having at the baby shower. So that way nobody gets rocked sideways. Mom's so cute. Was I not supposed to tell? No. But it's fine.
Just like, ma.
What do you do? Speaking of mothers, your mother's doing okay, right?
You mean aside from playing stupid games and getting stupid prizes? Yeah, she's doing fine.
The snort I snorted.
I mean, she can't keep her opinion to herself and just put her 2 cents in everywhere where it's not needed, and it's driving me absolutely bonkers, and I know it's driving you and Dr. Sister bonkers as well. And then my father has to chime in because, of course, it's all on the book of the face, because she can't just scroll past things she doesn't agree with. She always has to comment. And then my father jumps in and will tell me or my doctor sister, "You do know who you're talking to, right? That's your mother. You need to treat her with respect." Blah 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 blah. Basically, jumping all of our cases, and just not getting the point. But yeah, that's a tirade for another day.
we try to not talk about politics on here, because that is the one thing that I know sets me off. But did you know, if you use a frying pan and it hits somebody in the head, I found this out, it does ding if it is cast iron. So it does dent it. And it only dents it a slight little bit. So my ex-best friend stole my cast iron pan, which another one of my friends is going to try and find for me. But it's dented in one specific spot, and it's on the edge. So it's not the rim. No. It's on the edge where the rim meets the bottom. And so if you don't look very carefully, it's just a small little divot, just a teeny little bubble. Just here, I'll use coffee cup, which I used in the last episode. It's not the same cup, guys. It's a different day.
It is the same cup, just it's been washed.
Yes. So see how this meets the bottom, right? So this is considered the lip. This is the front face. Right here, just at the bottom, it's just a teeny little bubble of a right in the end. Anyways, I just thought it was funny because I was talking about it with Rachel earlier this morning. Like, it has been used as a weapon. And so my husband has told me I can go and get a cast iron griddle. They have them at Aldi's. So that's what I'm doing today. That's the only thing I'm doing aside from working on this. So if you want to prep the scene for today, I'm going to go run and get my sequins. I'll be right back.
Real quick. When you said it does make a ding, I was thinking like a gong sound. Bong, like, bong. Okay, so prepping for today, ladies and gents, ladies, gadies, and all of the above. We're talking about a soap maker today. And not in the... oh, lovely, she sells it at farmers markets kind of soap. She's Italian.
Yes.
She was a cornflake killer.
Flake alive!
She murdered 3 women in the town of Correggio, Reggio Emilia, in 1839-1840, so World War II, and proceeded to turn the ladies...
Hold on. You said 1839 to when?
1939 to 1940.
I was going to say, Rachel, when is World War II?
My bad. Listen, talking's hard some days. Anyways, so she turned their bodies into soap and essentially cookies, which I refer to as biscuits in my notes because, you know, that was the UK side of me, because in my notes they're like, oh yeah, they turned into biscuits, and I was like, oh, cookies. She made cookies.
Well, they're considered torts. Tortes. They're like a sweet bread. It's like a cookie, but they're the type of cookies she made are like, they have jam and stuff. And you typically have them with like coffee, cafecito, like
shortbread.
And so if you've ever seen those, I'll put a picture here, Italian jam cake or Italian jam cookies. It's like a sheet pan. You can make them into cookies or tortas. It's the same thing. Not tortas like the sandwiches from Cuba. Different torta completely. But like when you're having me, a Puerto Rican and a Cuban in a room at the same time, granted, my grandmother was from San Salvador. She primarily made Italian food. She only made Mexican or Salvadorian food when my grandfather wasn't around or when he was busy outside. She made tortas. And so the Cuban and the Puerto Rican that were there, they were like, this isn't a sandwich. And I'm like, I'm not talking about a Cubano, okay?
Same word, different meanings in different countries. Like us saying biscuit and the UK saying biscuit. Two entirely different things. What is a bread that you eat with butter and jam and all kinds of things? The other one is a cookie.
One can be used as a weapon. The other is a sweet treat.
As I say, yeah, if you mess up the recipe enough, or unless you're making hardtack.
Have you not had a KFC biscuit? You let those things sit for more than 4 hours and they become a projectile.
That's fair.
Anyways, so she made biscuits.
Yes. She dissolved the bodies in caustic soda, which was used in the process of making soap.
This is a Pandemonium Witches podcast. Trigger warning. The following episode contains graphic violence and gruesome depictions. Listener discretion is advised.
So her name is Leonarda. I'm going to need you to say pronounce the last name.
Un momento. Cianciulli. Hien, you're muted. Hien Cooley. So we can just call her Leonardo Cool Whip for this episode.
I just called her Leonarda through all my notes because it was just easy. I was like, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name.
The unaliver of Cool Whip.
If only Cool Whip was involved. It was not. So Leonardo was born in Monte Avellino, which was then the Kingdom of Italy, because she was born April 14th, 1894. So Italy, it was not like it is today. She was the youngest daughter born to Serafina Morano and Mariano, insert last name Kat said earlier. Unfortunately, of course, she had an unhappy childhood. She attempted slip and slide twice in her youth. According to her memoir, I tried twice to hang myself. Once they arrived in time to save me, and the other time the rope broke. Mama made me understand that she was sorry to see me alive again. Once I swallowed 2 slats of torso, always with the intention of dying, and ate some shards of glass, but nothing happened. Yeah.
If I didn't know any better, it would sound like she had pica.
Right. But she, did try to off herself.
Right. She tried to see the other side of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, pretty much. In 1917, she was 23. She married a registry office clerk, Raphael Pensati. Her mother supposedly did not approve of this match, as she had plans to marry Leonarda to another man. According to the memoir, family members had identified another husband for her, which could have also happened to have been her cousin. I mean, that was commonplace then. Leonarda later.
Technically, it's commonplace in that culture. So Grandpa wanted to marry me off. He didn't approve of my dad, and so he wanted to marry me to somebody who he approved of. So it still takes place to this day, unfortunately.
That's fair. Leonarda later claimed that her mother had cursed the marriage due to the fact that her mother did not approve. 1921, the couple moved to her husband's native town of Lauria Pontenza. I love how I pause and I look at you for a second to see if you're nodding or going, what? So Leonarda she had a little bit of a record. She was convicted of theft in 1912 at the age of 18. 1919 at the age of 25. So at age 18 for theft, age 25 for threat at gunpoint with a dagger. 1927, she was 33, she was tried and sentenced for fraud. She served 10 months and 15 days of imprisonment. She later served in the prisons of Loria and Lago Negro and had to pay a fine of 350 lire. All because she had deceived a local woman from whom she had handed over money and valuables of several thousand lire. Which I had an absolute mess of a time transferring the monies over because they don't use the lire anymore. Everything is euros, so trying to bounce it back and forth, it hurt my hand.
I'm sorry, but thank you for doing that.
I just forgot to do it here. I did it further down, but I forgot about it right there. Anyways.
Okay.
Leonarda was known to her neighbors as a woman of easy morals, dishonorable, impulsive, and rebellious against marital authority, and dedicated to bragging and fraud. So after Leonarda was released, they moved to Lacedonia, Avellino, where their home was destroyed in the 1930 Impania and Volterra earthquake.
For those of you who don't know about, that's one of our things we like, natural disasters. That was a terrible earthquake. There were still some the thread went one way, my hand went the other. There were still some ruins from the Greco-Roman era that were completely demolished in that earthquake that they were still uncovering. Archaeologists were still discovering. They lost half of it to the earthquake. So she probably went more psycho after that earthquake, I'm assuming.
Well, apparently it shook her up enough that it, I guess, shook up some sense in her because they moved to Correggio, Reggio Emilia, where Leonarda set up a small shop. She then became very popular and well respected within the neighborhood. So it shook something up there enough that it's like, oh, I need to get my poop together. This whole entire time, though, her husband was still working in the registry office, barely making enough to support his wife and children. Because, oh yes, they had kids. And of course, he was an alcoholic. So, barely making enough to support his wife and children. And what money he was making, he was also spending it on alcohol. So, Leonarda had to work to support her kids because she obviously... So it's no wonder she didn't respect marital authority. Her husband was a smuts. What'd you find? Did you find more sequins?
The blue ones that I ran out of last week.
Okay!
Josh put it in my desk. That's not where that goes.
Random place to put it, but okay.
Hey, listen, I found it when I was looking for something else, so it's fine.
And now you can put it where it goes. So Leonarda organized herself to raise the family's fortunes because she had to work. They also benefited from compensation that was given to the victims of the earthquake. She started a small but flourishing trade in clothes and furniture, as well as offering services of palmistry and astrology.
Okay, guys, this is when I say that people like this give people like me a bad name.
Oh, you kids' voice. So in Correggio, she was judged as, at best, as eccentric, but she was well liked and esteemed by all, and considered a reliable person, an exemplary mother, and a fervent fascist.
Fascist?
Listen, I don't like the word, so I'm going to say it how I want.
No, a fastest is a type of button. So you mean fascist?
Yes, I mean fascist, but
But you're going to say fastest this whole episode, aren't you?
probably because I hate the word.
That's okay. That's fine. I'm all right with that.
I'm not a fan of the people either, but that's besides the point.
We'll call her Buttonhead. That's fine. She's part of Coraline's world.
That's fair. She welcomed many people into her home, entertaining them with antidotes, offering them sweets that she cooked, and lured women into her trap.
I don't like this.
What is that saying? Something the spider said to the fly.
What is normal to the spider is chaos to the fly.
No, there's a saying. I can't remember it. Oh, I think it's like, what a mighty web I weave, said the spider to the fly, or something like that. Mom and Mimi used to say it all the time when I was growing up, so I can't remember exactly all of it. Anyways, Leonarda had a total of 17 pregnancies, but lost 3 due to miscarriages. 10 of the children passed in their early childhood, and of the 4 remaining children, Leonarda became fiercely protective. And here I put, I can't blame her.
I completely understand.
However, how she went about it, that's where I blame her. Her fears for her children were fueled by a warning she had been given by a fortune teller years ago. She was told that she would marry, have children, but all the children would die young. It is also said that she saw a Romani who told her that in her right hand they see prison and in her left hand a criminal asylum.
So with that, for those of you who are like, yeah, that's not a thing. Well, okay. So depending on your dominant hand, so mine is my right, my left is my future, and my right is my past. So like, because I use this one so often, it's already seen everything that's come and gone. And then with my left hand, it tells a different story, but mine are connected. So like if I put my palms side by side, they're exact mirror images of each other. So you can't read them correctly. And so for Leonarda's, hers was probably the opposite. So her left hand was her primary hand and her right hand was the non-dominant hand. And that's why it was read that way.
Possibly, but I found it hilarious because of how she ended up. So I was just like, oh, okay. Tell me more. Yes, please. So she's quoted as saying, I could not bear the loss of another child. Almost every night I dreamed of small white coffins, swallowed one by one after another, by the Black Earth. That's why I studied magic. I read books about palmistry, astrology, spells, and spiritualism. I wanted to learn everything about spells to be able to neutralize them. That's not how that works.
That's not how any of that works.
So, flash forward to 1939. So World War II is going. Her only daughter was still attending the nuns' kindergarten. Her two youngest sons were still in school, while the older, her beloved son, despite being enrolled in literature at the University of Milan, ran the risk of being called up to the front because they did essentially kind of what the U.S. did. They drafted. At the mere thought of such a fate for her favorite son, Leonarda, according to her own words, would have fell prey to despair. Mindful of the success of the magical intervention carried out years earlier by a sorceress, Leonarda soon found the solution to her problem in magic and made the drastic decision to perform human sacrifices in exchange for her son's life. In fact, to her judges that later questioned her in the courtroom, she stated that her mother had appeared to her in a dream and that she would have been the one to suggest this exchange.
No!
Her victims would be 3 middle-aged women, all of whom were her neighbors. So the murders took place between 1939 and 1940, and by 1941, rumors started to spread about the disappearances. Leonarda, of course, had taken care about who she chose, as these women had substantial savings and thought there was no next of kin. And of course, nobody would believe that the wife of an official had done this, let alone a woman of such small stature. She was 4'9", 1.5 meters tall, and weighed about 110 pounds, which is about 50 kilograms.
I was going to say 50 kilometers. That's a long lady. No, she was tiny. She was shorter than me.
Yeah, so short little woman. Nobody would have thought it, especially because at this point she was loved in her neighborhood. So yeah, nobody would have. No, not Leonarda. No. Oh, but it was.
My mom is a short, formidable woman. You have met my mother. There are 2 people in this world that Devin is afraid of. My mother and God. And when I tell you, she has pissed off my mother once. Only time. Like, I didn't hear anything else because Devin told me that's the end of the conversation. And I was like, Mom, did you say that? And she goes, I would never. And my dad's just sitting in the corner going,
Because he knew better than to say anything.
listen, the tinier the woman, the closer to hell. That's all I'm saying. My grandmother, when she died, she was 4'6". 4'6". When she was still alive, itty bitty. When she was still alive, I was terrified of that woman. She went toe to toe with my ex, who was 7 foot, nearly 7 foot. You saw a picture of him. He was freaking huge. She goes up to him. She pulls him down by his shirt and goes, listen here, Mr. Guarito. You are going to leave her alone. And if you don't, I make sure you do. Do not mess with tiny women.
I was going to say, it was your mom. It's, with her being a nurse. I know ways of making, your demise look like an accident. I had to think of a better word.
Demise is a good word. I like the word demise.
My dad also uses that threat sometimes. And then it's nobody would find your body. And I'm like, Dad, come on. He's like, what? Which when he was doing that, we were having to replace the septic tank. So he's like, I got a hole. I was like, Dad, you can't be doing that. Part of the I was like, he's part of the reason why we almost missed our flight to England in 2008.
Stop.
Because he mouthed out the TSA guys. And of course, he had our tickets. He had our passports. We were stuck. Thankfully, they let us back. They let us on the plane.
Speaking of passports, I need to go get mine renewed, like, in the next 3 weeks.
Okay, anyways. So the first victim was Faustina Setti, who is a longtime spinster. She was 70, who had gone to Leonarda for help finding a husband. Yeah. Leonarda told her about a suitable partner in Pola, but asked her not to tell anyone. She had also persuaded Faustina to write letters and postcards to relatives and friends, and to have it be sent when she reached the location, telling them that everything was fine. Well, while preparing for the departure, she visited Leonarda one last time. On December 17th, 1939, the day of her departure, Faustina went to her friend's house to get her last instructions and to have her write a letter to send to her friends once she arrived in Pula, as well as to sign a proxy to have Leonarda manage her assets there, because everything had to be transferred. Well, she never left the house.
Was it the city of Pola or Polonia?
Pula.
Pula.
Pula. That's what I was saying, right?
Okay. You said Pola, and I was like, Polonia? Or because they called Poland Polonia. So I was like, was it Polonia or so it's Pula. It's Pula.
Yeah. Not to get confused with the pig from Moana.
Pula!
So, are you ready for how she died?
Leonardo? Yes. Yes.
We have to get through the victims first.
God damn it. Fine.
So, Leonarda killed her with an axe, dragged her into a closet, and cut her into 9 parts.
Whoa!
Gathering the blood into a basin.
Whoa! Hold the phone! That was a lot! All at once! All at once!
But just wait, I have what she described happened in the official statement.
Okay, Billy Mays. You just want to, like, freaking traumatize me this whole episode. It's okay, little brisket.
Used to this by now. Rather watch his true crime. So, what Leonarda described was, I threw the pieces into a pot, added 7 kilos of caustic soda, which I had brought to make soap, and stirred the mixture until the pieces dissolved into a thick, dark mush that I then poured into several buckets and emptied into a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, I waited until it had coagulated, dried it in the oven, ground it and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine, kneading all the ingredients together. I made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit, though Giuseppe and I also ate them. Giuseppe was her beloved son.
Giuseppe.
I'm gonna say it how I want.
My grandfather's name was Giuseppe. It's. I get it. You can call him Pepe or Joe for short.
No, it's fine.
Okay, you can say Giuseppe the full time. It's fine. It's just, I'm gonna be like,
He played a role in his mother's actions. He's just as guilty.
what?
Surprise!
Oh my God. Tell me more.
Whether willing or not, he participated in her actions. So
I need my other scissors. These ones are too big, and my hands are too small. I'll be right back.
my spoon is too big for my bowl.
My spoon is too big. I forgot to run the flags on Monopoly Go.
Whoopsies. Okay, so some sources stated that Leonarda also received Faustina's life savings because she'd had her sign a proxy, which would have been about 30,000 lire. Leary, sorry, because I put in notes over here. As payment for her services. So in my notes, I was like, this currency was used from 1861 to 2002. In 1999, the euro became Italy's currency, and the lira became a national subunit of the euro at a rate of €1 is about 1,936.27 before being replaced as cash in 2002. So as of January 27th, 2026, when I did this research, the Italian lira to dollar exchange is about 1 Italian lira is equal to $0.000613. So this means if you exchange 1 Italian lira, you will receive that little bit amount of dollars. So 30,000 lira is equivalent to about 15.49 euros, which is $18.38 in USD.
I'm just imagining, that old, oh God, what is it? The Jack and the Beanstalk with Goofy and Donald, and Mickey, and they're cutting the pieces of bread so they're like paper thin. I just imagine them cutting a piece of a pound, like a lira, and just cutting it just so thin.
The little tissue paper thin. Yeah, so in today's money, that is not very much. But 1939, however, she had a little bit of money. So Francesca Soavi, Soavi, was the second victim, and she was a kindergarten teacher. Francesca was told by Leonarda that she had found her a job at a girls' school in Pienza. Piacena. Piacenza. Unfortunately, Francisca fell into the trap on September 5th, 1940.
What was the city? I was asking you to repeat it. That's why I went like this. This means repeat.
My bad. So Piacenza.
Piacenza.
Okay. Well, like with Fastina, Leonarda had Francesca write postcards to friends, but this time from Correggio, telling the friends of the plans. Leonarda also convinced her to send the postcards from Correggio to avoid making her destination known until Francesca was certain she had gotten the job. Well, if you had found her a job, why is it not hers? Because the job didn't exist. Or if it did, because, advertisements, it wasn't certain that she'd get it. Well, like the first victim, she visited Leonarda before leaving, and Francesca gave Leonarda permission to sell her belongings and keep the sum from the items sold, just like Fastima. Leonardo proceeded to drug her with wine and then use the same axe on her. Leonarda disposed of the body the same way as before, and it's said to have gotten 3,000 lira from her, which would have been $1.82 in USD.
A whole dollar. I can get a pickle.
Right? Like, inflation was it was horrible to them. Leonarda then had her son Giuseppe go to the town to mail out the postcards. So, like I said, he was a part of this. He could have just told her no, told her to stop. I don't know, done multiple things, but no. He was an accomplice. So the third victim was Virginia Capo? She was an opera singer. Who was also a widow. I don't remember if I said that. She was a former soprano who is said to have sung at La Scala, which is a historic opera house in Milan, and was 59 years old. You touched your nose.
Wasn't recording, it now is. So she
Okay, hold on. Let me backtrack.
just a tiny bit. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So let's see, where was I? So Virginia was a widow, was 59, and was a former soprano opera singer that who is said to have sung at a famous opera house.
Yes.
So Leonarda told her that she had found her work as a secretary for a mysterious impresario, which is a person who organizes, often finances concerts, plays, or operas, performing a role in stage art similar to that of a film or TV producer. Because I had to look that up because I was like, what's that? What's that word? Not afraid of a dictionary. Well, because she's on a roll now with these instructions, she told her not to tell anybody where she was going because it's worked twice now. Let's try it a third time. On November 30th, 1940, Virginia arrived at Leonarda's for one last visit, as her previous victims did. Virginia, though, may have agreed to not tell anybody, but she did tell a friend about the impending departure. So she did mention it to somebody. Of course, Leonarda did the same pattern with Virginia as she did with the other two victims, but this time she melted Virginia's body down to make soap.
Not tea cakes.
No, she made the cakes too. According to the statement Leonarda gave, she ended up in the pot like the other two. Her flesh was fat and white when it had melted. I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet.
I think I just vomited a little.
Yeah. Leonarda also reportedly received 50,000 lira, assorted jewels, and public bonds from Virginia, which this time she would have gotten a whopping $30.65 in USD.
That's like 3 Big Macs and a Coke.
Possibly. And of course, what did Leonarda do with, their belongings? She sold it because she didn't need it. Well, the police commissioner of Reggio Emilia, following the traces of a treasury voucher belonging to Virginia that was presented to the Banco di San Prospero by the parish priest Adilmo Frattini. So the police commissioner summoned the priest, who said he had received the voucher from Abelardo Spinabelli, who was a friend of Leonarda's. Abelardo himself declared that he had received it from Leonarda for settlement of a debt.
So she's using these people's payments, the debt that she's getting from their unalived bodies, to pay for her debt.
Yeah, she's using what she pulled from them to pay for her own stuff. Yes. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen a cornflake unaliver do this, but doesn't make it any better.
It doesn't.
Well, Virginia's sister-in-law, Albertina Fanti, grew suspicious about Virginia's sudden disappearance and had last seen her going into Leonarda's house. Excuse me. Albertina reported her fears and suspicions to the superintendent of police in Reggio Emilia, who opened up an investigation and then arrested Leonarda. So the superintendent, police commissioner, entrusted Commissioner Serrao, Serrao, with the investigation. Suspicion immediately fell onto Leonarda because she had maintained friendly relations with all 3 women. Of course, Leonarda rejected the rumors, threatening to report for insult and taking on a defiant tone toward the investigators, which is why she was arrested. But Leonarda didn't confess to the murders until their suspicion fell to her son. Her lovely little golden child. That's when she decided to provide detailed accounts of what she had done in order to absolve her son from any blame. So, the crime of criminal association began to be suspected due to the involvement of the priest, Spinabelli. Leonarda and her son, Giuseppe, who several times on behalf of his mother had sent letters pretending to be the victim, who insured of her health and had had clothes that belonged to the victims washed. Because, you got to wash the clothes for yourself. However, these suspicions fell due to the extraneous of the priest and Spinabelli to the facts, and the only suspects remained were Leonarda and her son, who served 5 years in prison and was then released for lack of evidence, as she did her utmost to convince the magistrates that she was the only culprit. He was still an accomplice. Doesn't matter.
My husband was asking me what I wanted for dinner, and I said food. And he called me a smartass. And he goes, smartass? And I was like, I learned from the best.
I mean, what did he expect? I mean, anyways.
I do want a burrito right now, but I'll grab that when we're done.
Sounds like a plan. So Leonarda was tried for murder in 1946. So about 6 years after. Because, I mean, there was a gigantic war going on. So murder trials were not exactly top priority at that point. She remained unrepentant, going as far as to correct the official record while on the stand. And this is from a newspaper article. At her trial last week, Leonarda gripped the witness stand rail with oddly delicate hands and calmly set the prosecutor right on certain details. Her deep-set dark eyes gleamed with a wild inner pride as she concluded, I gave the copper ladle, which I used to skim the fat off the kettles, to my country, which was so badly in need of metal during the last days of the war. I mean, they were in desperate need of metal, so she wasn't wrong about that. And then she wanted to say, I didn't kill out of hatred or greed, but only for the love of a mother. Because she was doing it for her son. Because she believed that in doing this, she was protecting him. I mean, she was protecting him, all right, just not the way she thought. She slowly revealed details to the commissioner, starting with how she killed Virginia, destroying the body with saponification, and then throwing the remains in the Correggio Canal. She only confessed to the other 2 murders after long interrogations. While in front of Officer Valli, she replied, well, I ate my friends. If you want to be eaten too, I'm ready to devour. I had eaten the disappeared, one roasted, one stewed, one boiled. And in her memoirs, she added, if you knew what was true in these words.
She wrote a memoir?
Yep. After numerous things that, in the evidence leading back to Leonarda, like the environmental finds in her house, she was considered certainly guilty because they found blood and dentures that belonged to the victims. You know what don't lie? The teeth. Teeth never lie. So it was after this that she fully confessed to killing the women and destroying their bodies. So I have a breakdown of how exactly she did it. She boiled the bodies in a pot full of caustic soda that was brought to about 300 degrees, creating soaps with rock alum and Greek pitch. She scattered what was left in the cesspool and preserved their blood to make it take root in the oven. She then mixed the blood with milk and chocolate to make biscuits, which I put in parentheses, which in the U.S. would be referred to as cookies. She then fed these to her children because she believed by feeding her children these cookies that she was saving them from a mysterious death. She identified in herself the goddess Thetis because Thetis had wanted to make her children immortal by bathing them in the waters of the river Styx. So by feeding her children these blood cookies, she thought she was saving her children from death. And that's not how that works whatsoever. After her full confession, her trial finally started June 12th, 1946, during which a point of debate emerged. You're like, wait, I gotta put this down. While the prosecution claimed that Leonarda had acted out of pure greed for the money from her victims, Leonarda would stubbornly justify her murders as a blood tribute due to the memory of her dead mother, who she said would appear to her in a dream and threaten to take the lives of her children if she did not shed fresh and innocent blood. Ma'am, I don't know what to tell you. That ain't your mother. Not sure what you've seen, but it ain't your mother. The expertise of Professor Filippo Saporito, who was a professor at the University of Rome and director of the criminal asylum of Aversa, managed to convince the jury only of the semi-mental illness of Leonarda, following the theories of Caesar Lombroso, who then very much was leaning to who the professor was leaning towards total infirmary caused by a psychosis hysterical. July 20th, 1946, Leonarda was then found guilty of 3 murders, the theft of victims' property, and the vilification of the corpses, and therefore was sentenced to hospitalization for at least 3 years in a criminal asylum and 30 years in prison. You know how the Romani found prison in one hand and asylum in the other? Guess what? You get both! She also had to pay a penalty of 15,000 lira, which comes out to $9.14 US dollars now. Whole lot of cheddar, right? So the years of the sentence had been reduced to 24 for semi-mental illness, but then brought back to 30 for the continuity of the crime. Moreover, the jurisprudence of the time also denied premeditation because it considered it incompatible with semi-infirmity. In fact, Leonarda would enter the asylum and never come out. She died of cerebral apoplexy. That's a hard word for Elmo. Which, for those that don't know, it's an intracerebral hemorrhage or hemorrhagic stroke. So she had that in the women's criminal asylum in Pozzolio on October 15th, 1970. She was buried in the cemetery there in a tomb for the poor. At the end of the burial period in 1975, so 5 years after she died, no one claimed her body, and the remains ended up in the common ossuary of the city cemetery. Because I know in England you have to rent the grave space. Is that what it's like in Italy too? Oh, okay.
You have to, excuse me, microphone is too far away. You have to buy the plot. It's like America. You have to buy the plot. And if your family doesn't own that plot or you don't claim the body is then put in like a pauper's field, just like in America. But for their, let's say the family lineage is dead and gone, like they're all gone and there's no family lineage left, they can move the grave sites because the family no longer is here. But correct me if I'm wrong, because we do have 2 Italian listeners, so they can correct me.
Yes, please. Some help in that would be awesome. So a nun in the prison remembered her in this way. Despite the scarce means we had, she prepared very tasty desserts, which, however, no prisoner ever dared to eat. They believed that they contained some magical substance. I mean, possibly. So, numerous artifacts from this case, including the very pot that the victims were boiled in, are currently on display in the Criminological Museum in Rome. They have been there since 1949. Surprise!
When we go to Europe, I want to go there.
So, are you being haunted by more dead people?
No. I'll try not to be, but no.
I mean, as long as you don't, they don't try to jump your body, we good.
Okay, listen, that was before I was a child. Okay, it wasn't my fault that I got possessed. Really.
And in the Winchester house?
They just wanted to get an escape, just to get out of there. And I understand that. To be stuck in that house 24/7, 365 for how many years they've been dead, I get it. But I mean, they could have asked first.
Like common courtesy. Come on, guys. So there was a dark comic play called Love and Magic in Mama's Kitchen that was first produced by Lena Wertmüller at the Spoleto Festival in 1979. The play began a run on Broadway in 1983. So, you want to hear some criminological theories? So, Augusto Balloni, Balloni, Balloni. It sounds like baloney.
It is baloney.
Argued that Leonarda, at the time in which she committed these acts, for which she had been convicted, was in such a state of mind due to basically being mad, as to greatly reduce, but not to exclude, her ability to understand and want, having to be considered suffering from serious personality disorders that manifested themselves mainly through the hystonic and narcissistic personality disorder with sadistic, schizoid, and paranoid traits. That was a mouthful. He also read her memoir and came to this conclusion with modern medical diagnoses. Roberta Bisi, while agreeing with the hypothesis, dwelled on the traits of the woman's personality that emerged from reading of the memoir. So, evil energy versus conservative energy, which she possessed and it's hardly ever found in the same person, supposedly. I'm reading what I found. Don't come at me. Relationship with the mother, lack of affection from the mother, and research shows that children who experience such experiences develop an insecure attachment, mental pathologies, and antisocial behavior, and in turn, a lack of affection toward their children. Magical thinking, which illusionary diluted the greatness of her ego, which delegated the responsibility for an event to something magical. Narcissistic homeostasis, balance between the search for a sensation never completely achieved of well-being and a persistent feeling of inferiority that manifested itself in narcissistic attitudes, such as presenting oneself as a special person and relating to others by trying to dominate them as if they were objects. We know some people that are like that. Anyways, moving on. Idealization of the people from whom she expects to receive narcissistic reinforcement from. Relationship with death, first seen as a skeletal thief of her children, then when she wants to commit slip inside, as a beautiful woman to whom she promises to do services. Norina, which supposedly is a nickname given to her by her mother, versus Nardina, which was a nickname by her from her father, became split personalities, in which there was Nardina, who was the woman who suffered for her children, and Norina, who just acted. No impulse control. And then last one was identification with the goddess Thetis, because both wanted to save their children from death. Yeah, I know.
There's a whole lot going on there. With when it comes to like magic and stuff like that, I know sometimes my stuff doesn't work. And I also know sometimes when it does work. But I am no way deluded into thinking I am this omnipotent being or anything like that. Like I can do this and do that. And like the people had a bead on my hand and then my fingers started going numb. The people who claim that they can just kill people just by looking at them, I'm just sitting here going, you're freaking deluded. Like you're forking just weird. But like I also knew a Romani girl that I used to go to fair with who could look at somebody and then a week or two later they'd be dead. And it was just happenstance, you know? But I also never questioned it because she was scary as hell.
That's fair. You never question the Romani things. It just they on a plane all of their own. And we love them for that. We would much rather them be on our side than against us. So, media stuff. So for cinema, there is The Black Journal, La Sapanatrice, all Italian. I'm not going to say it. It's about Leonarda. Because I would butcher the rest of it. Gran Bolito by Mario Bolagini from 1977, and is inspired by the Schmurders. In this film, the three women are murdered by Leonarda, are played by as many actors because traveling. There was the soap maker, The Life of Leonarda, by Alejandro Quadretti. From Lucia, by Roberto Capucci, Blue Suede Shoots. And then there's a 2016 short film called Leonarda. She is mentioned in season 2, episode 4 of the TV series Cleo by one of the supporting protagonists regarding the possible interpretation of a dream. In 2025, the film The Soap Maker was produced by Claire Dennis. She was on the TV show Deadly Women. There is a song about her by the Church of Misery called Confessions of an Embittered Soul. Bunch of theater stuff. Of course, lots of literature. Because,
and I'll make a slide for the Instagram post that just says everything on it
Thank
with their
you.
names and their pronunciations.
It takes. So podcasts, our beloved Bailey and Syrian.
Yes.
There's a lot. So you had Bailey Syrian, Crime at Bedtime, mainly Schmurder with Meg and Mum, True Crime All the Time, Morbid, Killer Psych, Red-Handed, there's several parts. Cult Leader with Spencer Henry. Ain't It Scary with Sean and Carrie. ODFM, that's the name of the podcast. Crime Hub, which is a true crime. Wicked and Grim. SKD, Crime and Comedy. Creepsilog. Necronomipod, serial killing. Murder and Crime Story Time. I know I'm saying the words, but it's titles. Something Sinister podcast. Evil Men, Rotten Mango, which is a Series XM podcast. Cleaning and Crime, Dark Souls. Let Them Fight, which is a comedy history podcast. I'm going to go give them a listen later. Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. A Paranormal Chicks. That Chapter podcast. Crime and Spirits, which is a true crime and cocktail podcast. Evil Pudding. Tea Time Crimes. Human Monsters. Killer Bites. A Murderous Affair. The Casual Criminalist. And there were so many more in so many different languages. Like, I just like searched her name for podcasts and it's just like all of them. And I was just like, there's so many. Oh my word. But yeah, so I think probably like the freakiest thing was the fact like they have, not only do they have the kettle in the museum, they have the axe, the knives, all the things at the museum.
So one of the episodes we're going to be doing for Serotonin Saturday is about our beloved Bagel Hands and the museum that he has in Vegas. Because there's some of the stuff that he has, which one of them is one of the axes from Lizzie Borden. He also has quite a few other things like the cauldron from Ed Gein's house and a few other objects. But I will never, I've already told Emily, I've already told you, and I have definitely told Meg. Meg and I said that we'll stay at the slots. We'll stay at the casino. We will not go anywhere near that because that's just asking for trouble. But the fact that they have that, no.
I know. But yeah, but that was Leonarda, our soap killer.
I know we had discussed her prior to our rebranding, and I was disgusted then, and I'm disgusted now. As somebody who did make soaps and candles and does make delicious baked treats, it just makes me nauseous. And it's disgusting. And it's one of those things where you never know what you're getting when you go to like farmers markets, unless you like know for a fact they have an FDA rating. But disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
I know. Like, I think like the only funny part about it was the translating the money into USD current currency because they thought they were so rich. Inflation says no.
Inflation says think again, bitch. And for those of you who are just now joining and like listening to us or watching us and you see I'm sewing or I'm on my phone, we're autistic and ADHD. We can't just stare at the screen the whole time. We get freaked out.
Or we get like so sucked into like what we're watching and we're like staring at ourselves going, oh my God, I can't believe I look like that. It's easier if we're doing something else.
It's true. And like Rachel knows I can be watching TV, scrolling on my phone and listening to her at the same time. And I know exactly what she's telling me. Mind you, my pregnant brain will not retain 90% of the information, but that's okay. She's aware of that now.
And if I just have to repeat myself later down the road, that's okay too, because I will have forgotten I told her. So it all works out.
So the next episode is going to be detrimental to our listeners. We already filmed it. We filmed it a couple of days ago because I just wanted to get it done and over with, so it was done. You're welcome, Trey. But if you want to skip that episode, that's fine, but it's got a lot of schmurder in it, guys. Like a lot more than usual. Normally it's about 4 to 10 victims. This one's got a lot more.
Some lots of knives.
Minimum 5. Even though we have a 5 out of 5 rating, it's a minimum 5.
Pretty sure it's for that one, and for that topic it's more than 5, but we'll stick with the 5 because that's a cap. This one was probably like a 4, maybe, just because she describes it in detail and the fact she fed it to her kids.
3 and a butter knife. Like 3 and a butter knife.
Take 3 and a butter knife.
I hated it, but I loved it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I keep looking at the little countdown, and I was like, I feel like we were on here longer than that, and I forgot that you had to bounce out and bounce back in. So it's a little bit longer than the time it says.
We got told that our technical difficulties thing and our trigger warning thing is adorable. So this is probably going to have a technical difficulties thing in there as well.
Wouldn't be an episode with us if it didn't.
Something always goes wrong with the audio, guys. But listen, if you're still listening to us, please send us your gossip. I still only have 3. I would like more. Either that or we're going to find some Am I the A-hole on Reddit to read to you guys. Which I'm okay with that, just to give a little reprieve for all of the gruesome stuff we discussed.
And watching our reactions as we read it to each other. Oh yeah, it'd be hilarious.
I'm okay with that. I had fun today.
Also, if there's any topics that you want us to cover for true crime, let us know. We will always take suggestions. I did not have fun today because I absolutely hated doing that research. But now it's done and over with.
Now you know how I feel for this next week's episode, because I hated doing the research and I put it off for months and months and months.
That's fair. I'm looking forward to my next episode, or the next episode that we have to record for me. Oh boy.
So I'm gonna need our stuffies, which we have a few. In that case, stay feral.
Bite the hand.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, bye. Okay, bye.
Well, party possums, that's today's dose of the pandemonium. Thanks for listening and watching the ADHD chaos. Review, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Tune in next week for more continued madness. And as always, stay feral.